the deadly disease. And there is also a little bit of prediction that's happening is that the peak of the coronavirus spread in India probably might happen in the second week of May or third week of May. So what is in store, we don't really know. So as we've all been listening, जैसे हम लोग सुनते आ रहे हैं हमारे वेबिनार्स में कि पास्ट के बारे में चिंता करके बहुत ज्यादा फायदा नहीं है एंड फ्यूचर के बारे में भी बहुत सारा एंजाइटी वरी करके भी फायदा नहीं है. व्हाट वी नीड टू बी रियली नोइंग इज दैट वी नीड टू बी टेकिंग केयर ऑफ आवर टुडे प्रेजेंट. तो आज का दिन अच्छा हो इज व्हाट वी नीड टू डू इट, एंड दैट वी कैन डू इट ओनली थ्रू enjoying each and every moment and being in the present. So today is webinar number 23. It's a marathon webinars, every day new topic, new speaker. And जैसे आप देखते हैं टीवी में आज दुनिया के मशहूर लोग जो साइंटिस्ट हैं, रिसर्चर हैं, ऑथर्स हैं, एक्सपर्ट हैं, वो सभी फ्री हैं. तो कोई ना कोई अलग अलग चैनल में, अलग अलग प्लेटफॉर्म में वो अपनी एक्सपर्टीज शेयर करते हैं, वो अपनी राय देते हैं. तो वेलोसिटी ने भी सोचा not just people from across the state in India, but we will also have an international flavor and international perspective to our webinar series. So today I take this opportunity to introduce the speaker for today's webinar. As you've already got the broadcast message and have you seen that usually he hails from Israel, but वो USA के Orlando में he was a scuba diving coach, and after a very successful stint there, he moved back to Spain, and in the last 20 years he's been in Spain, and he's got a very interesting life story. Personally, I had the opportunity to go through a video, and it's fantastic. तो आज एक ऐसे सब्जेक्ट के ऊपर वो बात करने वाले हैं, वो थोड़ा सा हटके है सब्जेक्ट. We are not very much familiar with this kind of a subject in our day-to-day life. So he's going to talk about he's a mental strategist and he's a clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm sure he's going to share a few things with us that's going to be quite can you hear me now correctly? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Okay, all right. So with that, I would like to introduce the speaker for today is Mr. Jacob Shekarel. So Mr. Jacob, a warm welcome to you. Let's wave our hands and then welcome Mr. Jacob, and it's over to him. So Jacob, you can take off from here, and you can also use the screen share. So I think you'll be able to.
Thank you. Stan, thank you very much for introducing me. Thank you for inviting me, and also to Dr. Amula that he invited me. I know him for some years now. And he said, can you join us to a call? I said, why not? Let's do it. So I prepare you something very special. Hypnosis, it's a unique thing. It's a very different thing. Many people are afraid of it, but I'm not going into the fear. There's also a theory. There's some videos which I made about explaining what is the fear about from hypnosis, which basically I was afraid of it myself. And for stupidity, it held me back for 20 years. But today I want to start now, and let me share a screen here to start with. And this is basically the subject that we are going to talk here. Let me just hide everything because I can see, I don't need to see the other screen. And today we are going to talk about several subjects that can allow us to live much better. We reach to the world, we arrive to the world, and one day we live it. And the most important questions is how we pass, how we going through the years that we have between entering to this world and the exit. So the question is, are we reaching the goals that we came for? Do we live a better life? Do we enjoy and we love life? Or are we suffering and just wait to end this lifetime. Now, the objective of this call is to allow every person to reach his goals and to reach the goals of his soul and to enjoy this journey, this amazing journey of that we call life. So, and if it's like, if you're interested by that, Stan, please, you can just please, I would like to see if you can see that people will raise hand if it's quite interesting for them, and if we can go forward. So let me just, I think I have a bit of some technical issues here with the screenshots, but let me see if I can just change it. Okay, let me see how I do it here from here. And okay, but okay. So this, I'm going to share again my screen. So I want to introduce myself a bit. My name is Jacob Shekrel, and as Stan said, I'm a mental strategist, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. My specialties, one of my specialties is past life regression. In my education, I'm sociologist and anthropologist. I'm representing Bob Proctor in Spain. That's where I live now in the last 20 years. I'm also a student of Dr. Brian Weiss, who is #1 in the world in the field of past life regression. He's a psychiatrist from Miami. I'm a diving instructor certificate and I'm a commercial skipper. I also already crossed and sailed through 5 oceans in the world. I love archaeology. That's one of my passions. And I exposed several caves that people used to live there more than 10,000 years ago. And I have more than 35 years of experience in the world of business and businesses and entrepreneurship. Now, as you can see here, well, that's me. And I didn't start as a business person and diving instructor and hypnotherapist. I started more like this as a baby as a clown. And during the years, the baby has grown up to become who I am right now, but the clown is always there because I love always to find and to see the funny things in life. And the reason I was sharing with you my curriculum and my story is not to do a show off, but it's to impress you and to explain you why you can and should and would want to listen to what I have to share with you. And my mother, by the way, was born in India. She was born in Calcutta. My grandfather lived there for some generations. And I would love to hear in your people, the people's opinion, why they think they came to live in this world. What makes them so happy in this world? And what prevents them from being happy in the world? So Stan, if you can see that and have some information about it, that would be great. If people can respond. So do you want to take over and see that?
Okay, so इस दुनिया में हम लोग आए क्यों हैं, हमारा मकसद क्या है? If anybody would like to share, आप अपना हाथ ऊपर कर सकते हैं तो मैं उनको unmute कर सकता हूँ. You can share it, Len. Yeah, by the way, there was a small technical mistake. The meeting was locked by mistake. So it's been now unlocked and we have 60 people right now.
Oh, that's good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Nice.
So anybody would like to, answer that?
And if not, I'll continue.
Yeah.
I would love if people would share, but...
Yeah, I have disabled the chat, so you can continue, Jacob. You can continue, Jacob.
Okay. Now you're fine. So there is one thing that prevents us from being happy, and that's fear. And the main reason of fear is the ending of what is called ending. Like we're afraid of dying. Okay? And we start being afraid of dying from the moment that we become aware that there is birth, that we were born, and we are going one day to die. And that day, and that moment when we're going to end our mission through this world is always echoing in our mind, even if we are not really aware of it. Yet this fear is getting another form. It's not only the fear of ending life, but also ending the life of the people we really love and care about them. And it's hard for us to separate or to say bye to the things that enters into our life. And this fear basically is causing all of the people to concentrate and focus in whatever they don't want to have in their life. They don't want to be sick. They don't want to be poor. They don't want to lose anything. And we already know that when people are focusing in what they don't want to have, not only that they cannot see what they have, therefore they cannot also be grateful and appreciate what they have, but also what we don't have, and that's where we focus on, it's what's going to reach and to come into our life. So the question is, why people are afraid of dying? Why people are afraid of death? And my answer is basically that we don't really understand what is death. Most people believe that they is the body, is the physical body. But they actually really forget that they, who they are, is the soul. Now, attention, because I say forget, and I didn't say they don't know that. I'm just saying that they forget it. There is a Kabbalah, which is the secret part of Judaism, which explains the essence of life. And it says that when the soul enters into the body of the infant, of the baby, there's an angel of God that is touching here between the nose and the lips. And that moment, when the angel is touching it, all the knowledge that we have, we forget it. All the knowledge that the soul has from in between lives, we just forget it. And the reason that we forget it is so to enable us to live this life and to take the lessons and to do all the lessons that we need to do right now in this life. Now, let me a second. It's still an issue here with the slides. Okay. So I'm going to share another slide here. And I basically stopped the slides in between. So I don't know if it's good or bad or whatever, but okay, that's what we do. So this is Shakespeare basically. And Shakespeare said that the world is a stage and we are the actors. Now, when we understand that the death is not a final thing, but it's a process of nature, then we understand that we don't really die. And the body finishes its job and its journey, and the soul continues the journey and goes to somewhere in between what we call heaven, and then it returns back to the world in another body, in another clothing, in another job to do here in this life. And when I'm doing the sessions to people, when I'm doing past life regression session, I'm taking them specifically to the moment of death, and I allow them, enabling them to see the soul getting out from the body that they lived here before in a previous lifetime. And when they see that, when they see it, they start understanding exactly much better who we really are. And in one of the sessions that I did not long ago, I asked that woman, what is the message that you have regarding the death, that you're dead in that time? And she said something, and I'm quoting her right now, we don't really die. We just leave the body and there's nothing to worry about. And when people see in the mind, because when I'm doing the sessions of past life regression, I'm doing it by hypnosis, through hypnosis, and the people see that. I don't tell them anything. I'm just holding the hand. So call, and I'm guiding them through the process, and they see everything. It's not me who tells them who they were. The people can see themselves. So when people see their past life in their mind and how the soul leaves the body, and they stop being afraid of dying. And when we stop being afraid of dying, this is the moment that people start really live the life. Now, I develop a method, and I'm using in that method several techniques. That past life regression is one of the session, is usually the fifth from 7 sessions. And after that session, there is a dramatic change in the perception and transformation in the mind of the people. And the uniqueness of this method, that instead of like all other conventional methods, just only solve symptoms. For instance, and I'll give you what I mean calling solving system, is like when we have a headache, we take the pill that stops the headache, but it doesn't really stop the pain. It doesn't really stop the cause of the pain. And I said that this is a bit a wrong method. It's a wrong form to do it, because if I'll show now, and I'll share again my screen, okay? When we see, this is like the dashboard of a car, and assume that I'm driving my car and one of the alarm lights in my dashboard is turned on, and I'll take a screwdriver and I'll take off the lamp, the light, so there will be light. And so it's more likely that I won't reach my destination because the car will stop before that. And this is the question, what I'm asking, why are we doing this in our life? What is the reason that we do that to ourselves? Because being a diving instructor, I used to teach my students that whenever we have a problem underwater, first we need to solve the issue underwater, and only then we can come up, because that will be safer. And I'll share another screen right now. It's by the way, this is one of the cases which I discovered, but I don't have any problem with issues with underwater diving. So I decided to share that screen, that image. Many years ago, and I want to share with you a story right now. Many years ago, I was diving in a military dive, and it was to check the hull of the ship. That ship anchored inside the port, and outside there was a huge storm, very strong storm, and we can feel it inside the port because the ship was really banging against the fenders that on the pier. And it was a basic, simple dive. So instead of going 2 divers, as we should do that, I decided to go by myself. Let me stop sharing here something, because I think I shared something wrong.
Jacob, I think that was in Hebrew.
Yeah, that's true. That was in Hebrew. But that's what he wanted to see, not my text. Sorry. So instead of going with my partner, I went alone. And suddenly, during I was under the ship, under the hull, I heard a puck, very strong sound, noise that was unnatural there. So I stopped. I also stopped my breathing, because when we breathe and we have the regulated air is coming out from the regulator, you hear the bubbles, and it's like making a lot of noise underwater. So I hold my breath, and I start renewing my breath after a few seconds. And while renewing my breath, water came into my mouth. So I stopped immediately again. I didn't inhale them. And I put my hand across my mouth, and I found out that the regulator is not there. I just holding between my teeth the mouthpiece, which is the rubber mouthpiece, which is holding the regulator. And I understood that moment that the band, which is holding the regulator, the mouthpiece, just turned off, just broke off. And the natural instincts that we have during those cases, those situations, is just to go. I stop sharing now. Okay. The natural instinct is to go up. But if I would go up, probably I wouldn't be here now to tell you the story, because I was crashed between the ship and the pier. Okay, instead of that, what I did was diving deeper. And I held the tube, the hose of the regulator, and I took the mouthpiece from my mouth and I put the metal regulator into my mouth and started breathing back again. And this way, holding the regulator in my hand, I just dived under the hull of the ship up to the front part of it, and I went up to the diver boat. Now, the knowledge that we need to have to live good, to live better, to live healthier, to live right, is inside us. And most of the people are looking for the answers in the wrong place. And this was the purpose of this image, which I'm going to show you right now. There's a story here, like one night a person stood into that light zone of the light in the street, and he was searching something on the floor, or on the floor. And another person came and asked him, "What are you looking for?" This man said, "I lost a coin." So the second man started helping him and to find, and after a few minutes of searching that they couldn't find anything, the second man asked, "Where did you lose the coin?" And the first man, the one who lost the coins, pointed far away out of the circle of light. And the second person asked, "Why are we looking here?" And the man who lost the coin said, "Because there it's dark and we cannot see that." And it's usually, this is most of the time, this is most of the way that how people are looking in their life when they search for the things in the wrong place. And we were taught by our parents, by our teachers, that every time that we have a problem, that we don't have a solution, we should search the knowledge outside, to take another course, and we never understand why those courses never help us to reach the solutions. And so that's what people are doing, is just going to where the light is. Hopefully they will find the answer there. And this leads me to the second subject, which I have here to talk about. It is the reality that we see in our eyes, and it's not real. And I'm not going to argue with anyone that is going to say, "Yeah, but I saw it, that's the way it works, I've seen it." Because whatever we see, we give it a different meaning. And when two people see the same thing, do they see the same thing? And I want to tell you a story. There was a Maharaja that used to love, and he loved to see how people are thinking, people of his village, his town, his country, how would they think. And he used to put on different clothes and costume like a simple person, and was walking in the city. And one day walked in the market, and next to him there was one of the poor guys, the beggars of the market. And it was a very hot day. The sun was in the middle of the sky, and one of the lights of the sun just touched rupee that was in the sand. And the Maharaja and the beggar saw that lightning at the same moment. The Maharaja didn't even bother to bend over to pick the coin, while the beggar jumped on the coin. He was so happy, as if he found a treasure. Now, by the way, don't try to search this story in the books, because I just invented it. Okay? This is a perception. This is how we think. This is how we see life. This is how we see the world. And I am sure that you understand the message of this story, because it's very simple. But we see, so whatever we see and whatever we define as a reality is very fragile. So let's see what affects the reality. Now, one of the variation is the meaning that we give the reality. And therefore, because that's a variation, that's the meaning, it has endless options, opportunities. Now, I want to show you now, I'm going to take you to something that I studied as well from my teacher, from Bob Proctor. And I want to share with you the screen here. I have actually two screens like this. Now, what you can see here This is the flow chart. Everything starts in our life in thoughts. The thoughts are going to the emotions. And together, thoughts and emotion creating the feeling, when we feel bad or when we think bad or negative, it's going to create a negative emotion. When we are happy or we have a positive thinking, it's going to create a positive emotion. Now, thoughts and emotion together, we creating the action. And according to the action that we're going to act or to do, we're going to get the results. Now, there's something interesting here. When we combine the thoughts, emotions, and action, this is the attitude, and I'm going to talk in a second about the attitude. But there's something else here. Thoughts and emotions is more a spiritual thing, when actions and results is in the physical world. But if we want to improve our actions and result, it's always start in the spiritual world, in the thoughts and our emotions. Now, I'm going to change the image, and what you can see here, this is like the image of a human being. When the head is bigger, it's called some people call it stick person. And I divided here between the conscious, which is the logic, and the subconscious, which is the lower part and the emotional part. And the explanation that it goes now, by the way, the conscious, subconscious are not in the brain. The brain is just electric box. It's not where we have the thoughts. And last November, I had a seminar here. I gave a lecture in Valencia, Spain. One of the people in the audience was a neurologist. He's a surgeon. And I asked him, I knew the answer, but I asked him because I wanted the public to listen. I asked him, have you ever cut in one of the surgeries that you've done the subconscious mind or the thoughts? He said, no, never. And I said, why? He said, because it's not there. Now, I knew it now, but I'm just trying to pass it through for you right now. So when we have these two clouds that you can see them, one of them is the paradigm. I want to explain the paradigm. Now, the paradigm is what we call profession word, and I don't really like to talk about it, but usually I'm using the word paradigm just to explain what it contains. So the paradigm, it contains beliefs, and we're not talking here about beliefs of religion, but I'm talking about more simple beliefs like I need to work hard to earn my money. The other thing that there is the perception. And the perception is, do I think that the world is a good place or a bad place? And then we have the attitude. Remember the attitude from before, which is the thoughts, emotion, and actions. So the attitude, do I see the half full glass or the half empty glass? And then we have the last thing in the paradigms is the habits. Do I do what I'm supposed to do, or I delay to sometime another time? Now, there is another paradigm here. Now, this paradigm is our inner values. And when we're talking about these paradigms, they are the glasses through them we judge the world. We check the world if it's working according to our values. Now, there's another paradigm. And the other paradigm is called the inner self-image. And the inner self-image is the glasses in which we judge ourselves, comparing us to the world. Now, you can see, because we have one that when we judge the world, if it works according to our values, and then we judge ourselves if we're good enough comparing to the world. And usually we don't win in both of them. Now, the paradigms also what creates the limiting beliefs that prevents us from achieving our goals. And I want to share with you a story. I'll stop here the sharing. I want to share with you a story. When I was at high school, I used to have a math teacher. He was a very short, elderly person, but he was very frustrated as well. And he had one big issue. He knew excellent mathematics, but he didn't know how to teach. And he did terrorizing in class. And everybody was afraid of him. And the result, we also were afraid from the mathematics. And as I said before, like when we're afraid of something, Nothing good is coming out of it. And when he was looking for a victim to bring him to the board, I was trying to be small, and trust me, I'm a big guy, but I was trying to be small as much as possible that he won't notice me, because when he brought you to the board, he was making laugh of his victim. And all this class, not they were smarter than the one in the board, but they were all laughing, as you know, kids. And when he used to return the exams, it was a whole show. He used to prepare them like a packages them like one big pile, and starting from the zero. And he used to go between the tables, between the students, and he used to count the student on with his name on there, and he used to throw it on the table like 0. And no wonder that very few knew a bit mathematics in that class. And I was sure that mathematics and me were not meant to be good friends, because my self-image was very low. Actually, I thought I'm stupid because of the way he was teaching. But I had aspirations. And after I finished my military service and before I entered into university, I went to improve my grades, and I went to a night school of adult elderly people. But there was a young teacher, and he knew how to teach mathematics. And suddenly something happened. My grade jumped from 0 to 90, from 100. Okay, and that's also what I received later in the university. Now I haven't changed. Mathematics hasn't changed. The only thing that was changed was the teacher. But something else changed. My inner self-image. And I understand that our inner self-image depends on the environment where we live. And actually, all the paradigms that we have in our minds, all the values that we live in our life are created by the environment where we live. They're designed by our parents, by our grandparents, the family, the friends, the teachers, the culture where we grow, the social economy, social level, the education. And our parents, they learn them from their parents. And our grandparents, they learn that from grandparents. And therefore, there is a generation that passes to another generation some kind of paradigms that reach from some grandfather that who lived generations before, that we don't even know who this grandfather is. And we get decision today on our reality in the modern world on base of knowledge from dozens or hundreds of years sometimes. Does it sound logic? Let me just drink something. Does it sound logic that people are getting their decisions based on ancient, I'll say ancient, but in the old paradigms that doesn't even suit our modern life, the life of every day? Now, I have many clients that coming to me and they were hurt from physical or mental abuse by the parents. And their parents did it because their parents experienced the same thing. And I can share with you stories which I heard from my clients that can make you cry. And one day even I asked my mother, why did you hit me when I didn't know an answer when she helped me with homework? And the answer that she gave me, that her parents also did to her. Now, what's my fault that her parents did it to her that now I'm getting it? There is no any logic. Yet, I decided I'm stopping that chain, that stupid chain. Because I have 4 kids and I never hit my kids if they did a mistake in homework or any other reason. Now, if what I just explained is the way that we perceive our reality, is it really the reality? Now, I hope that I made you think about the perception of your reality and to help you get out from your comfort zone. There is a saying that maybe I don't know if it's very common in India or not, but not what everything that which is shine, it's gold. And what we need to do basically is to ask the question and to search for the answer, and not to receive everything because someone said so. And I see that with my clients, that one of the worst phenomena which is affecting their life of at least 85% of my clients is the influence of other people's opinion in their life. That's amazing. And this is also the cause that when we don't have enough self-confidence and self-esteem. And that point is leading me to the next step, next paragraph in this speech. And it's called control. We live in a way that we need to control everything in ourselves and everything that happens in our life. And God forbid if we don't control it. Really? When I was 37 years old, my life were almost perfect. I had academic degree. I was a partner in the business family. I had another business of my own, which I started it myself. And few months earlier, there was an article in one of the leading newspaper that my business was one of the 4 leading companies in that field. I used to have my home, my car. I had family, 2 kids. Well, family, there was also starting with the cracks. And that time I had separated from my wife and we began the process of divorcing. And that time I met a woman, she was divorced, she didn't have kids. And when I asked her how come after so many years she didn't have kids? And she said that she has a problem, she cannot bring kids. And then surprise, I didn't like the surprise. She was pregnant. And then I got into a financial crisis and I had to close my business. That new business, not the big family business, but the small one, relatively small. And after that, immediately after that, I got sued. I was sued by the bank on a debt, which was not even big in aspect of businesses. It was something like less than $20,000. But that time, and I went to them, to the bank and said, listen, I want installments to pay the installment, but I say no. And they decide to go on the suing way. And I didn't have the money right time at that moment. And the bank confiscated my house and that caused with my divorce. So, and all the issues were stuck, mingled in each other. And all of these 4 crises came one after the other at the same time. And I felt myself, I was on my knees. I lost control. So I left home. I moved to my parents' house. My parents used to live in London at the time, and my father used to come from every few weeks to live in his house because I just was a guest in their house. And if I'll talk, one of my tools, which I'm working, by the way, it's numerology, which is also another specialty of mine. And that year was number 9 in a cycle of years, because number 9 in numerology, the year 9, is a year of ending. And it's hard. It's hard because we are giving up on things that we're so used to it, but we need to clear it. It's like the universe is saying, this is time to clear the sack that we're carrying on our back and to start fresh. And that year, and I, as much as I love life, I couldn't find any way to solve the problem. I was pitying myself and I wanted to escape. Actually, I want to end my life. Cheers. And I closed myself in the house almost 9 months. So now the corona that we're closing, we're sitting right now in Spain almost a month and a half. It's a picnic. That's not even a crisis. There is no crisis. It's okay. But I will close myself almost 9 months, and I felt that I'm walking inside a cave without light. And every step which I took there in that cave, I was getting another hurt. Yet in that darkness, I got 3 insights. The first insight was that I love my kids more than I'm afraid of the difficulties. And my kids doesn't deserve the punishment that I disappear from their life. So that was the change when I decided to stop thinking of ending my life and therefore to deal with my problems. The second was that we don't control anything in our life. Because when our life choose to come to this life, to live in this current body, it choose a mission. And God is the one that controls us, controls our life. And God is the one that brings us those different situations and challenges in our life. And if somebody thinks that he's really control his life, it's illusion. Yet, and here I have the third understanding which I got. We have responsibility over our life. So somebody can ask, if I'm not controlling my life, how come that I have responsibility? And there's no any contradiction in this, because we don't control the challenges that God puts in front of us. Yet, it's our responsibility to solve and get out from those situations. And when I understood that third insight, when I saw it, when I understood it in my head, in my mind, I start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And the solutions start reaching to me like from nowhere. I don't know even how I got them. They just were in my mind. And what was the difference before that? Nothing. But it just had those insights that changed my life. And when I got out of my metaphoric cave, I looked back to that black hole and I said to myself, now there is nothing that I cannot deal with. And I want to tell you that time in my life as a metaphor. Because when I couldn't find any solutions, how I can deal and solve my problems, it felt like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. I couldn't go backwards. And in front of me, there was the ibis, nothing there. I could see the pinches of the rocks that if I'm just going there, I'm crashing down. And I knew that when I step forward, I just crash. That moment, I said to God, I don't control anything. You take control. And I just stepped forward. That moment, God smiled and said, good, you learned. And he gave me wings, and just like an eagle, I soared to heights that I've never been before. And the years after, I moved to Spain, and I want to share with you now an image in 9 months from the time I moved to Spain. I started a new business. I built it with 10 fingers. It was my diving school, which was in one of the most beautiful villages in the Costa Blanca in Spain. And it was a school that never been before in Spain. And in a year and a half, I already returned all the investments. And later on, I was the only diving school in all Europe that we had a submarine. Yeah, you can see there's these images in the submarine. In the back, it's me, a big guy, right? And in that diving school, I developed a technique, what I called it the 4-step technique to overcome fears. And I used to take decisions that, including my wife that worked with me, and my employees thought that it's a financial mistake, but it became a real great success. And That's me here in these images, and one of my best friends, this octopus. I love the octopus. I used to play with them all the time. My students used to call me the octopus man. Now, the diving organization, PADI, the diving organizations allow diving instructor to take 4 people at the same time to introduction dive. Now, when we're talking introduction dive, this is people who never dived before. They just want to try to dive because they heard about something, they love the sea, whatever it is. Yet those people, most of them are afraid of it. And when you see them, and when you have 4 people with one instructor, most of the time when he's busy with another one and the other one is afraid, they jump up to the surface like corks, I used to call it. Because in diving instructor not really can control in 4 times the same time. In 4 people at the same time, sorry. And I decided that in my school, also my diving instructor that worked for me, dive only with one person every dive, which means that we work 4 times harder to make the same money that another dive school used to make it in 1 hour. I wish to work 4 hours just for examples. Yet, we were able to help our customers to overcome their fears. And none, in my diving school, none of my clients jumped as a cork. And those people that we helped them to overcome fears, they already continued that year to do the next course, to the first diving course, to have their own certificate, or they came the next year to do the full certificate course. And I even had a case when a father and a son dive like that, and we took 2 instructors, taking the father and the son, and the year later, they came with 18 people to do the whole course. Now, the reason I'm telling you, so first of all, you can see it's not financial mistake. By the way, it's a success. And the reason I'm sharing that is to show what is to take responsibility. How you can, each person knows what he thinks, and he can stand on his mind, do whatever he thinks despite other people's opinion. And in every business, this is my personal thing, every business when I create, I have my mission and my passion. And just for stories which I did in that school, I had a school like between 12 to 13 years, then I closed it. I donated diving for a group of people that were physical and mental disabled, used to live in a daycare center. And with just one day, I decided to take them and help them. Or later, another opportunity, there was a guy, 72 years old, that he had a dream to dive. And his dream came because one of his best friends, before the friend died, he said that you must dive. And he came to me. By the way, I became with this guy for friends for many years. Or I used to take a dive. It came to me an English 10 years old boy with diabetes, and we were not allowed to take another 10 years, and especially not the diabetes. But just because he had this dream to dive, and no other school was willing to take him or to take the risk for themselves, I wanted to help the boy to believe that diabetes is not the end of the world. Or another story when another English woman brought me, we used to have a lot of foreigners coming, tourists coming to the diving school. Or another English woman that brought her daughters to dive this introduction dive. And when I heard that that woman, at the age of 5, almost drowned, and during 42 years, she had a phobia from water, after convincing her that I'll take her to dive, it was a struggle to convince her. But after 40 minutes, she was diving, and the phobia gone. So what I say is stop, try to control. And the reason I say that, and I'm going now into inner part in us. When a person believes in God, and it doesn't really matter from what religion each one of you But when a person has a real belief in God, and when I mean a real belief, I'm talking about, I refer to people that believe in all their heart that God is a loving Father, and He's not a Father that punishes you if you didn't pray whatever, whenever. And I'm talking about belief, that when you have that belief in God, we don't need to control anything. Because we know that whatever God brings us is good, it's for our best, even if it's a hard lesson. So let's talk about beliefs a bit, because this is an important issue. It's part of our everyday life. And now I'm going to talk about some beliefs. I'm not going to entering into religions, and I'm not going there, but I wanted to share with you stories about archaeology. And I told you that I love archaeology, and I participated in excavations of underwater excavation of archaeological sites. Now, 20,000 years ago, that was the peak of ice time, ice age. All over Europe was covered in icebergs and glaciers, sorry. And since that 20,000 years to our time, during 10,000 years, the glaciers start melted. And only a few of them left on the top of the peaks of the mountains in Europe. That time, 20,000 years ago, the sea level in the Mediterranean was lower between 100, I'm saying 130, but it was lower between 100 to 150 meters below its level today, what we know today. Therefore, and I did a research about with navigation maps of the Mediterranean, and the Mediterranean was divided actually in two seas instead of what we know right now as one sea. Even Africa was connected in a bridge, land bridge between Europe to Africa, in Gibraltar, between Morocco and Spain, and there was another bridge between Italy, Malta, the island in the center of the Mediterranean, and Tunis. And that melting took about 10,000 years, and that's when the sea level, about 10,000 years back, 10,000 years, that's when the sea level became what we know today, with the same geographical shape and the same level. And I want to show you something from that side where I've been participating. I'm just playing with my screens here, so sorry for the delays. And what you can see here, basically, in this screen, this is, by the way, a well. It's a 12-meter deep, and as you can see, it's about 9 to 10,000 years ago, and you can see how this well is built with stones. Now, what we think that they didn't know how to live and they were very backwards, we have huge mistakes about it. And you can see here the second image. You can see that one of the shrines that they had. So it was like in the Stone Age in UK, and they had it there as well. And then you can see a skeleton. Now, this time, and I'm going to explain you about the skeleton in a second, this time we call it the Paraneolithic. This is the time when human beings would start living out, getting out from the caves and start building villages and homes made of stones. And they also start having agriculture and having animals, finding the animals and domesticate animals and domesticate agriculture. And when the sea level went up, raised up, the first thing that happened, the fresh water aquifer, which was on the rock, it was a 6-meter deep, that well, and the sea level got up and it covered the fresh water. So they still lived in that village, but they used this well as a beam, and they used to store the remains of grains. They were found there 26,000 wheat grain. There's another story with that wheat especially with that wheat, but there was bones of animals and bones of fish, and we learned a lot from what they had. And one of my jobs there, when I worked there in that excavation, was to dig the well. You can see the hose. We had a bigger hose, and we just suck all the sand out to a platform on the sea level. So they just went grain by grain to find whatever came there. And it's an amazing story, that village. One of the unique things, and this is what I'm going to talk right now, is, and this is the skeleton, that in that village were found several dozens of bodies that were buried. People who die in their life and when they live there in that village. And the strange thing, they buried them in the fetus shape inside the inner corners of the houses. This is a ritual burial. Now, not only that they put them in the fetus, understanding that they put them back as a child is born in that shape. Not only that, they also cover them with ashes from a fire, wood, and after that they put as well mud on them. So basically, and when the sea covered them, it's prevented the oxidations, and these bodies become like stones. Now, my education as sociologist and anthropologist, I was curious to understand their rituals, their behaviors. And one of the things that we can learn first from this shrine that they have there, and second as well from the ritual burial, that they believed in the universe. They believed in whatever we call it God. Now, probably they didn't call it God. We don't know. Maybe they had several gods, and that's not the point. But the point is that they were very spiritual, and they lived. Let me just stop this screen. And they lived in the combination between spiritual life and physical life. That was like this. It was a common thing. They knew everything about the spiritual, and they understood that. Now, the reason that they buried the dead inside the inner corners is because they understood that those family member has a soul, and they wanted their soul to protect the people who are still alive. And this is amazing understanding. Now, we can think, okay, this is a unique place. But a few months ago, I'm receiving a lot of material about archaeology, and it's always jumping on my screen. And I read an article that in Turkey, which is about 2,000 kilometers from that site, they found another burial from the same time, from 9 to 10,000 years, and they buried the people inside the inner corners. So this is amazing. Now you can see, as humanity, even though there's no internet, there was no connection, there was no WhatsApp, there's no Zoom, people behave the same thing even with big distances and all over the world, and this is amazing. And I've seen in that article, just yesterday, I think, I got about a tool, and one of the hunting tool that was found in north of Germany, that it was in a swamp, found in a swamp. So that's the only reason the wood was preserved inside the swamp. It was wet. But the same tool, the same hunting tool, they found that also in the Aborigines in Australia, and they found it also in places in Africa. So we can see there's knowledge and understanding that technology was advanced then, even though that it's not what we know technology. And we think that they had whatever life we think, but I say that as a sociologist, anthropologist, I said there is no any difference between us and those years, 10,000 years back. The only thing that has changed during those 10,000 years is the technology. Now, that time, that period, it was before all the monotheistic, or even the Buddha time in India, which is more several gods, and without disrespect anyone, because my intention is how we can unite people being and not create a diversity and separate them because of ideas, because of religion, because of different things. But when we talk about the three monotheistic beliefs, religions. The Judaism, which I'm a member of that religion, exists about 5,000 years. Christianity exists 1,700 years. And I'm saying 1,700 because it was established in the year 300 in Constantinople. And the Islam exists about 1,400 years. Now, there's no competition. We all believe in the same God. We just call it a different name. So why are we so separate? Now, 250 years ago, more or less, there was the Industrial Revolution, which created like a separation from the life of humanity from religion, from believing in God. And lately, in the last years, we have more returning into spirituality. And when I say spirituality, I'm not talking about religion, because a religion is an explanation, a form of spirituality. This is how people tells us how we should believe or respect God or whatever we do. And when we believe that God is a loving Father, and we know that God is acting in our good favor, it can help us to unite people instead of separating. And it doesn't really matter what religion you're a member of. Now let's talk about one thing, which is the cause of a premature death. And I'm talking about stress. And I want to share with you now another screen. And this is a screen of a newspaper from Miami, the Miami Herald. And it says that chronic, and it was like 2014, this article. And it says that chronic stress is connected, is the cause of 6 diseases that kills people. And when we talk about the 6 diseases, we're talking about heart attack. I'll stop the sharing just a second. We're talking about heart attack. We're talking about a brain. I forgot the word. It jumped out of my head now. Okay, stroke. Sorry, the stroke.
Brain hemorrhage.
Brain hemorrhage. I'm talking about also the stroke, but stroke, yeah, but true. So we have the heart attack, we have the strokes, we have the cancer, we have diabetes, we have high blood pressure, and we have suicidal based on depression. So this is the 6 main cause of death. Now, the stress is hurting the core essence of our life, which is health, relationship, and the money or what we earn or the job. And whatever, each one can call it whatever he wants, but we're talking about the same. And when the stress arrives into our life, it brings its best 2 friends, which is anxiety and depression. And when we start having those 3, that's where we start sliding down the slope of our life. At the young age, after people finish studying, whatever university, which in those years they also go through high level of stress, and then they step into this business world, whether it's like employees in corporates or the entrepreneurs that starting their own businesses. And usually this time they also build the families. So the stress and responsibility on the shoulders is just increasing. And at that age, when they're in their 20s and 30s, the stress can be controlled easily because it's also what pushing us to have another job, a better position, more money. They want to compete, they want to be better, which is great. Yet they're not aware to this secret signs of stress, which is coming. It shows up as lack of self-confidence. It comes as the imposter syndrome. This is the fear that people will find out that they're not good enough. So when they're afraid of the imposter syndrome, they increase the stress on themselves so they can work harder, more hours, just so they can close the gaps which is inside their minds. And then they reach to the 40s and 50s in the age. And when they reach to that age, at work, they can find, especially if they working as in corporate, as executive in corporates, they found that as younger people came in and start pushing them forward. Now these young people are the generation who try to achieve the better positions. And they want to move these elderly people that are already there. And despite that those elderly people are having more experience, the stress start giving its signs. And that increasing the lack of self-confidence, they're tired. And they even start seeing the day of retirement in the horizon. And that's when it breaks out. And they start sliding down the hill. And situation or phenomena that they didn't pay attention before earlier to that, like headaches, high blood pressure, don't have patience, anger, and they start taking medication treatment, which solve only the symptoms, but doesn't really solve the problems. And they start getting the relationship at homes breaking down, and that's adding more stress. And it doesn't really matter how hard they work. Always there's a criticizes how much it's not enough what they do. And the anxiety appears, and it takes them towards depressions. And again, they need medication. They need now sedatives. And that moment, it's when they start hiding their situation from the rest of the world. That at work, nobody know or think that they lost it, because their boss is going to change them in the first opportunity. And that moment is when many want to escape, to run out from reality. So they add something new to that equation, alcohol. Once that alcohol was just a fun drinking, like in the happy hours with the colleagues, but now it's become a way of escape. And one of the biggest problems of those people, it's a lack of satisfaction. They are never satisfied with the level, with the degree, with the rank, with the money they achieved. They always wanted more. And when the stress and anxiety become part of life, it's not really important anymore how much money they have or how comfort is their life, because again, they're not satisfied from the situation where they are. Now, if you think that this story which I just described, it's imaginary, think again. Because this is a situation which I hear it from the life of many of my customers. And in a few minutes, I'll tell you what causing all that. But many people think that part of life, part of growing up, part of it is becoming, having the disease and the illnesses. And it's not like that. And I want to tell you a secret, that we can live without diseases. When I was young and I was not aware of all what I just described here, the stress in the business and in my family caused me to overweight. Despite that I used to practice martial arts and diving and all that, but I was just gaining weight. I didn't know why. And it was not because of eating a lot, because that was not even the case, but I used to do a lot of sport as well. At the age of 32, God gave me a signs, gave me pain in my chest. And for 3 days, I was in the hospital. At the beginning, they thought it's heart attack, but it was not. It was an infection around my heart. But yet I took it close to my attention. And despite the stress, and despite I was struggling with the overweight, I started changing my attitude. And I can share with you that if I would listen to the doctors today, I would have to live with medication for the rest of my life. And trust, in my age, you can see I have white hair, I'm clean of medication. I'm not using any medication, not even aspirin. Okay? And me personally, I have a long story with God. For 3 decades or more, He gave me a lot of signs. Those years I even called myself a magnet of accidents. Through my life, I had more than dozens different accidents, hard ones. With cars, total loss, with motorcycle, diving. The story I told you, it was the easiest one. Even I was in military service and a plane went up in fire and I was there. And all of these accidents, I came on my feet with not even a scratch. Now, so I know the signs and I'm getting those and I know that's part of my mission, but we blame others, other people, we blame other situations that they're causing us stress, and that's wrong. Stress, when we blame somebody else that he is responsible for our stress, or another situation that's responsible for our stress, that's a misunderstanding of what is stress. So what is exactly the stress? Stress is it happens in our emotional system when we don't know how to respond to the events caused by other people or situations. We think that other causing is, but it's only inner reaction, inner response. The people that in front of us or the situation, they are just the triggers that start inside us, chain reaction that causing the emotion that enlight the stress. So where this trigger is coming from? Exactly like it was those paradigms. Events that cause hard moments, emotional moments, traumas in our life. I want to give you an extreme example for stress. And I'm talking about the PTSD that as well in India, you have soldiers, you have military, and probably there's some wars and they also people getting back with PTSD. So I'll tell you a story. It's partial real. It's all real, the story, but the events which I'll describe. 2 soldiers going to war. And they are there in the same place, the same situation, seeing the same thing. They see the wounded, they see the dead, they hear the same noises, they smell the same smells. Yet one returns with a post-trauma, PTSD, and the other returns balanced. So what's the difference between those 2 people? They've seen the same thing. That's the reality. We're talking earlier about reality. We see the same thing. One is with PTSD and the other is not. The one that got that PTSD, he had an event during his childhood that affected his life. He created a trauma. And the other one, he didn't got the trauma. He didn't have that story. The one that didn't get the PTSD didn't have such a trauma or similar trauma. And I had a customer that after a war situation in the army, he got post-trauma. And he was being in hospital for several months. And he knows to explain that when he was a child, he was sensitive, he was a dreamy child, he loved poems, he used to read books, but his father wanted to make him a man. And every time that he used to see him like that, reading books, poems, whatever, used to hit him with a stick. And that guy, when he got the trigger, when he went to the war, and that's caused the PTSD, he knew that it's because of that situation. So this is the explanation why or what is causing our stress or what is causing the trigger. And during our childhood, we're going through events, we're going through experiences, we're going traumas, and we have 3 types of abuse. It's a physical, it's a mental, and sexual. And most of the time it can be one of the 3 options. And these events are causing us a hard trauma, hard emotion effect inside us. And we are getting older. We want to forget that. We want to leave those memories at the back. We say, it's no longer, I don't want it part of my life. And we ignore them and we bury those memories. And I can share with you that a few days ago, I spoke with a woman, with one of my clients. She blocked a memory from the age of 12. She grew up in Africa somewhere. And at the age of 12, her mom put a knife in her neck and she threatened her that she will kill her if she do something. She didn't remember even what she was supposed to do, or she did. And that woman, she's in her 60s. She blocked totally that memory. She didn't remember that until about a month ago when she spoke with her cousin that was there, and that cousin reminded the story. So as much as we want to forget the traumas, as much as we want to block them, inside the subconscious mind, inside us, we have emotions that are burning and fermenting all the time. They never stop there. And that's what creating our triggers. That's what creating our inner values. This is what creating our life, the way that we react to stress, to situations. And I can tell you more stories. I told you that I'm sharing with you some stories. So a lawyer, she is a top executive lawyer. She had sexual abuse at the age of 6 by a family member. And that's affected her life. Like, she went down all the things like stress, anxiety, depression, medication, high blood pressure, everything. And others that were emotional abuse, words, sentences, which is taking them even to their 50s. I say that, and I don't know how it's in India, but in every country where I live, Israel and Spain, if you want to have a weapon, you need to have a license from the government. But to be a parent, nobody needs a license. And those parents causing hurts, damages so badly in their kids, damaging them, and they carry them to the rest of their life. And many of those kids were damaged by the parents. They become a parents and they continue the same chain. And it seems like an endless chain of hurt, emotional events. And it took me many years, but some years back, I found the missing link. And I can say that for many years, people used to call me Jack of all trades. Jack is my name, Jacob. And people call me Jack of all trades. But this sentence has this second part. Jack of all trades, master of none. And I never understood why I always reading and learning different fields in the world. Many of them didn't even were relevant to each other. I took so many courses. I gained so much knowledge. And then I passed through this crisis, which I told you about. And I went inside inner processes. And I understood that this knowledge, this is the knowledge that we learn from outside. It's great. It's very interesting. But the solutions are not there. They're inside us. All the solutions are inside us. And the only way to do a real transformation, it's inner work, to expose those roots, to clean them out from our emotion system. And only then to rebuild the confidence, the self-esteem, the self-love. And with all my respect, which I have to coaching because I'm a student, I've learned that from Bob Proctor, I'm a student, and NLP and all this guided imaginary and all these techniques working great, but they working in the conscious level. And there's also a lot of hypnotherapists that doing working subconscious level, and all of them doing great job. But that, who I was, Jack of all trades, allowed me to find the ultimate technique, and I called it transformational restart. And I'm using variety of instruments. I mentioned before, numerology and channeling and hypnosis and past life regression. And I'm helping people to release the roots inside them and to rebuild the strengths. And now I want...
Jacob, it's wonderful that you're putting a lot of personal experiences. So we will also take some questions. So you carry on.
Let me just one screen, and I'm just saying thank you. I just finished.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I got to the end of it. Okay, so as I said, I want to thank you for the time being here and listening. And I want to give you a present. I want to give you a gift. I've prepared now to this hectic time that we're going through, and Stan, you were talking about the corona. I'm sorry, I don't understand Hindi, but I understood that you were talking about the coronavirus. So I created the hypnosis, which is helping to overcome fear and stress and to increase the immune system. So this is the link here, and whoever wants to take it, enjoy it, you can have it, and just enjoy it. So Stan, if you want to copy that link and share that, you're welcome.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to copy it from your screen. मैं जितने भी लोग देख रहे हैं आप लिख सकते हैं, ये लिंक बहुत ज्यादा लंबा नहीं है. https://bit.ly/4cvsr1 इसको लिख लीजिए. एंड यहाँ पे एक इंफॉर्मेशन है जिसको आप विजिट कर सकते हैं. ये कोरोना से जो एंजाइटी और डर है उसको कैसे निकाल लेंगे इसके बारे में ये एक वीडियो है. Jacob, carry on.
Okay, so that's it. Now, if you have questions, I'm here for the question. I've finished.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Jacob. You explained a lot of your personal experiences of your customers to explain your, a lot of strategies, the mental strategies with which we can overcome a lot of limitations that we have. So thank you very much. As our gesture, all of us, we wave our hands and they say thank you to you for your wonderful time. So सब लोग अपना हाथ को वेव करके thumbs up करके Mr. Jacob का हम लोग धन्यवाद करेंगे. Thank you very much. So there is no chat session. That's chat is not open right now, but you can put your hands up. And अगर अब तक कुछ भी Mr. Jacob ने जो बात किया उसके बारे में कुछ भी सवाल करना है तो I will unmute it and then you can ask questions. So Mr. Sharath, can you ask your question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks a lot for this informative seminar. I just had one question. Basically, he has been talking about issues which you have come across or which people have come across when they were young. Some abuse here, there, or the other. The teacher has been bad or some whatever. Is it not possible to explain to the person, because now to us it seems very logical, because this happened, that's why he has become like this and things like this. It's not possible some or the other at the younger age or whatever to sort out this problem rather than carrying it the whole life? I mean, something is missing, no? So they're not able to work on this.
Yeah, let Mr. Jacob. Yes, Mr. Jacob, could you answer that?
Yes, of course. Being aware of the situation and understanding the problems, the issues that we have is great. But it's not working on the emotion level, it's working on the conscience level. And the emotion, and this emotion, the hurt emotion that we have there, these memories of emotions, and I'm talking about, we have two types of memories in the subconscious mind. Okay? We have a memory like what we ate yesterday, where we've been a year ago. Okay? But this is a conscious memory. We have also in the subconscious mind different memories. We have the past life memories, and we have this emotion thing. And the emotion, with all the respect, I haven't seen anyone that can overcome it. Listen, I can tell you, my mom, I said she grew up in Calcutta. And at the age of 12, she was sexually abused. I don't know if it was once or whatever, and she was blamed about it. Whatever you did, it's your fault. And she was 12, what she can do, okay? But that caused her, now my mom knows that, she told me that story, okay? Now she knows that, but that's affected her life. Now you can explain, I explained it many times to her. Listen, it's logic, it's happened then, but she has an issue with hugging. I can come to her in my age and hug her, and she will push me because she doesn't really like that. So the emotion that we have inside us, and I'm sharing personal stories from my life, from my mom's life, the people. I'm not that she's the only one that I expose her, but this is things which emotional. It doesn't work by conscious mind. It doesn't move out from our life. It's burning inside, and it's holding us so bad that there's only one way that we can clear it out. And that's going through the hypnosis. I'm, as a coach, I know as well NLP. You can explain that to everyone, 10 times explain it. So what? It doesn't work. So yeah, that's the answer.
Okay, all right. So we have Dr. Biren, you want to ask a question?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Hi, Jacob. It was wonderful talk. And I was just wondering, I'm a geneticist. I work in the level of DNA. So you have been mentioning that subconscious memories have your past life signatures. Now, what is the biology behind these past life signatures? Like if you have some past life bad incidents ingrained, how does it get imprinted in your genome? This has been my intriguing questions for a long time. I thought I'll ask you.
If I was a scientist, thank you for the question. It's very interesting questions. And yet I'm not sure that I have an answer for you because I'm not a scientist, okay? But I'm working with the mind. The mind, it's like you say, where is the conscious mind in the body? So now there's people can say, scientists can say that it's in the brain, but as I said, mentioned in my speech as well, I spoke with a neuroscientist and he said it's not there. Now I spoke with another neuroscientist in Jerusalem. He's a researcher, and we were talking about that because I'm always intrigued. I'm always asking scientists whatever I can, and there is no any imprinting. But yet he said that when the heart stopped beating, the brain continued to function to 20 to 30 minutes. So how come if the brain, the heart is not working, there's no blood there, yet the brain is continuing to function for 20 to 30 minutes and it's shutting itself off, like taking a shutter off. And the last part in the brain which stopped working and ends the life is the memory part, is the part in the brain where we use the memories, the cells that use memories. Now, why is that? I didn't share one of the story. I've been in diving, and I won't do it long. I've almost ended my life in a diving situation. I came out from a wreck, 30 meter, at the depth of 50 meter, I finished the air. Now, as a scientist, you know that we have the mechanism or in breathing mechanism that we don't control it. Because the CO level is increasing and the oxygen is dropping down and it operates our system that we have to breathe, correct? Agree? Biran?
Yeah, is mute.
Okay. So if we have that system, during going up, I start seeing images going through my mind. I start seeing my life passing through my mind, where it's coming from. We don't have any scientific evidence for that, but I've seen it. Now, I push it away because I knew that when you start seeing those images, it means that you're going to end your life. And I'm still here to tell the story. Okay? And I managed to overcome that system or breathing system that we don't control it. And I'm here. The fact is I'm here. Okay? I don't have any scientific answer for that, but I know that when my clients, which I'm doing past life regression, I don't tell them what to say. I'm hearing their story anxiously. I'm guiding through the story and I'm guiding them through their life so they can even vivid, they live it. I overcome a phobia of over 60 years of a woman. I have that story on Facebook as well, and in my blog. If I can, Stan, if it's okay, my blog is my name full, as it's written here under my name right now, jacobshekel.com. And there's a story of a woman in Miami that she came to me and she wanted me to do the past life regression. And she didn't tell me up front that she has a phobia from cockroaches. And she took herself to a memory from ancient Egypt when she was buried alive. I'm not going to the whole story, but she came there, and the last memory that she had from that previous life, 3,500 years ago, what she died with a fear, with a phobia from cockroaches, because she couldn't see that she was in a cave, she was in a chamber, a death chamber, like she was a slave, and the king died, and there were 10 slaves were buried with the king, and she was one of them. And she died with the phobia, and she brought that fear into this life. Now, this story, I'm just repeating what she said. But when she was sitting in front of me, and we did this session, it was upstate New York, and she was sitting like 5-10 centimeters between our knees. She was moving on the chair like something is crawling on her. And when she was suffocated from in that chamber, in that life, she was like breathing like this. Now, if you can explain me that, I would be happy. But I don't have the explanation with that, but I know she was really living it again. The only thing which I do, and I don't think that that's my part of in this issue, I don't let my clients to suffer again the fears or the difficulties that they had there. So I'm creating an emotion separation while they're sharing the story.
Okay. So, yeah. Thanks, Mr. Jacob, and thanks, Dr. Biren, for that answer. Can I ask now Mr. Satya to ask you a question? Mr. Satya, you're unmuted. Yeah. Yeah. What's your question? Ask.
1 minute, sir. Sir.
You can ask your question. You're audible.
Hello.
Yeah. Ask your question. You're audible. Can you hear me? Yeah. Carry on. Satya, ask your question. We can hear you.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Satya. Maybe from here. I don't know.
Yeah. Satya, ask your question. We can hear you. Okay. I think there's some issue with the audio. Okay, Mr. Sheikh Alim, you want to ask your question. So can you please ask your question?
That's a nice one.
Sheikh Alim, आपको सवाल पूछना है? Okay, I think there's no audio there.
And maybe they want to write it down in the chat.
The chat box is disabled for this call, so that's one of the reasons. So okay, anybody would like to ask a question? So you can please raise your hand. We have just a few moments. All right. So I think it's been a wonderful session, Jacob. I wish we had this chat facility. Okay. So anybody wants to ask a question? Can I? I see some hands, but I think it's more of an appreciation, I guess. So okay, what we will do is, Mr. Jacob, I had one question that I wanted to ask you, if you could answer that for me, and that is
something. Can I ask you first?
Yes, please.
Can you please stop calling me Mister?
Oh, all right. Okay, Jacob.
You're very old.
All right. Okay. See, what's the correlation between in India we believe a lot in law of karma. So is it in the same lifetime, or is it also to do with what our parents or our the previous generation has done?
Depends how you explain the karma. Okay, because people say, and in different religion, they have this thing like if you're returning back, so there is a punishment or you have to pay for something. And when I said, I say that when I learned that and I start seeing all these things, and I know as well, I know about 10 past life of mine. Okay, now I had times that I killed people. I'm aware of it. Okay. One of the story which I know it's like I was a Mongol warrior. I was a prisoner in a jail, in the dungeon in London. I was there. Now in this life, I took my kids there, and I knew things. Okay, now am I here right now to pay back what I did then? Then it's not, because it's like I'm more saying it's like Shakespeare understood it clearly. The world is a stage and we are the actors. We're we come here on the stage to act, to do some show. We have certain clothes, certain uniforms, whatever it is, and then we leave the stage, going backstage, changing clothes and changing roles. But I don't think that we meant to be punished on anything, because, so what does it mean? If somebody is killing other people, is he bad or good? I think it's a role.
Yeah.
I'm not happy that when we kill people, but again, if we people eventually, yes, they die here, but they don't really dead. So who's killing who? Now, if now you kill him and he kills you back in another lifetime, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I know I have a client, she's a Muslim woman, and she lived a bad, we're working now, she went through a bad relationship, and when we did the session, and all the time when we were working up to this regression, she was going through, yes, I need to understand, I understand that I need to go forward, but she always something, the emotion were pulling it back. And when we did the regression, it seems that she was moving forward. She changed. It's like what I call to walk forward and turning your head from the back to the front. Start seeing a horizon instead of the past. Okay? And apparently in that story, she came back. She lived with him, with the same guy. He was her husband then and now. So why she returned back? But that time she lived at a very young age, at the age of 30. And when we're talking this story, she came back into the life in 1950. So it seems like it was her direct previous lifetime. Okay? Yeah. And she came back to the same guy. They were married again, but this time they separated. So it's she said like, then I was weak and I died. This time I came back stronger and I left. Is it the karma? I don't know. But that's part of the game.
All right. All right. So thank you, Jacob, not Mr. Jacob, for your wonderful time. And we all have learned something new, something different that we usually don't talk about much. We talk about a lot of motivation, inspiration, how to do things, etc. But this is something, slightly different. So thank you very much. So once again, thanks a lot from all of us here. And so just for all our viewers, let me tell you that like every day, we are going to have another session tomorrow as well. And tomorrow we're going to talk about, Jacob mentioned about NLP. NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Program. So we're going to have tomorrow an expert who's going to talk about NLP. He's from Osmanabad in Maharashtra, and he's been one of the versatile expert of NLP in India. He's been conducting a lot of seminars and workshops. So he's going to be talking to us. That's going to be at 8 o'clock tomorrow, Indian time. So please come back. I'll be sending the link and the details by broadcast tomorrow. And, the lockdown is on. So as a reminder every day, stay at home, don't move out, go out only on emergencies for medicine and only for essential services. Wash your hands, and now it's night, so take a good hot water bath, have good dinner, sleep well, wake up on time, do some exercise, and learn some new skills every day so that we are battle ready after the lockdown comes down. So we hope the scientific fraternity is speeding up their efforts of finding a vaccination, and let it save the entire humanity, irrespective of which part of the world we live in. In fact, Jacob come from Spain, and Spain is one of the hardest hit country, and वहाँ पर भी lockdown है, तो वो 1.5 महीने से अंदर हैं. अभी कोरोना ने एक चीज बहुत अच्छी कर लिया है कि वो जियोग्राफिकल बाउंड्रीज को पूरा खत्म कर दिया है. अभी घर पे बैठ के इंटरनेट पूरा आपका ऑफिस बन गया है, कॉन्फ्रेंस रूम बन गया है, और वहां से आप दुनिया के कोई भी देश के कोई भी व्यक्ति से बहुत अच्छी आसानी से बात कर सकते हैं. So thank you, Mr. Jacob, once again at the end. And namaste to you. And we come back again for a webinar tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So till that time, you take care and good night to everybody.
Thank you. Good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.